send a connection request to a prospect. And that's what it is, right? And you get 300 characters to craft the best 300 character note. You better have looked at their profile, and some of that content better be right with what you read or saw or what you know about their company and what they said. And then you say that in the comments. It's got to be, I could tell by your profile this, our company has this solution that helps people. If you want to chat about that, let me know. But in the meantime, let's connect on LinkedIn. In the meantime, I'd be honored to have you join my network.
This is Outside Sales Talk, the best podcast for outside salespeople. I'm your host, Steve Benson, and we're here to chat with the world's top sales experts so that you can get their best sales tactics to level up your game. Welcome back to Outside Sales Talk. Today I have Wayne Breitbarth with us, and he's going to talk about the power formula for LinkedIn success. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
It's great to be on. Looking forward to our time together.
Outstanding. Well, just by way of introduction, Wayne is the founder of Power Formula LLC, and he's an industry leader in LinkedIn training and marketing. He shared his expertise with more than 100,000 professionals through private business consulting and dynamic presentations to global audiences. Wayne's also the author of The Power Formula for LinkedIn Success, Kickstart Your Business, Brand, and Job Search. Very cool. So, well, let's jump into it, Wayne. Why is LinkedIn an important tool for salespeople?
Great question. I think it boils down to this. It boils down to the database. And when I first got on LinkedIn 12 years ago, I owned an office furniture dealership. And it was just my partner and I, but we bought this company and it was a recession right away. And people told me I should be on LinkedIn. That was 2008-9, right? And I thought, nah, I'm not interested in social media because that's all anybody thought it was. But then when I saw it was a database, when somebody said, no, Wayne, you're missing it. If there were only 70 million people, now there's 750 million. But nobody sat down to take the time to say, yeah, it's got a little social media and stuff, but it's the database that everybody's going to ultimately be on when they graduate from college. So it's going to be an automatic. If somebody would have explained it like that, I would have said, hold it. I think I want that. So that's it. For salespeople, it's intelligence gathering. It's getting information so you can show up at a sales call, whatever that means these days, and be prepared and know where people used to work or where they went to school and what it looks like their function is so you can tie into what they do. And secondly, know who their friends are, because maybe you got somebody that can help you meet somebody, right? Because that, to me, that was the key. The key to LinkedIn was saying it showed you who your friends might know. So I think that's it. To me, it's the database.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably the most important database in business, really. So there's the database element of it. There's the knowing their social network element of it, who they're friends with, etc. And then there's the ability for you to advertise stuff about yourself and create a profile that the world can then view you through. Um, I've heard you talk before about having a customer focused profile. How can a salesperson have a great customer focused profile?
So that boils down to this. Does your profile look like you're a resource and that you understand their pain points so that in the profile you have resources and answers and pathways to help whatever their pain is, right? And let's face it, whatever we sell, be it LinkedIn training, that's to address a pain point. The pain point if I need employees, the pain point I'm not selling enough, the pain point that I can't find work. Okay, now that I know the pain points, what should I have in my profile so when you get done reading it, you go, God, do I need that guy, right? As opposed to it looking like a resume where, oh, I sold this much and I sold this and I sold that. Okay, does your customer really care that you are the greatest salesman in the world? In some respects, they want the good guys on their accounts, but they'd rather know that you're more consultant, right? and that you understand their pain and that your highest priority is them getting the right help they need. And if your solution provides that, bravo, good for you, right? And so I think that's what it boils down to. And I think a perfect example of that is this, Steve. When you're looking for a job, having a comment on your profile that says, I'm the top producing gross profit guy in the company for the last 10 years. That's a great statement for a recruiter to take to your next employer, right? This guy can sell his butt off. But think about that statement to a prospect. Gross profit. What it sounds like you're going to be the next victim to me, right? So that one statement, depending on why you're using your LinkedIn, it could have been I'm looking for work yesterday, but now I got a job. That statement's got to go away. You got to look like a resource. You can't look like you're out there pitching. We all know we're going to use our profiles to move from career to career, from job to job if we need that. But do you look like you could help them? Do you understand their business well enough? Is it clear?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about thinking about the audience that's going to be reading your profile right now, right? Is the audience customers and therefore you're marketing your product or service? Or is the audience that you're really going after
Yeah, a
future
recruiter or
employers?
something.
And so you're really marketing you.
Right
Yeah,
on.
recruiters,
You got it.
exactly. Um, so what are some of the what are some of the keywords that a field salesperson should add to their profile, assuming that they're looking to have an audience of be their customers? What are some things that they should have in there? What are some things that they should avoid?
So I think whenever you can use the word consulting, and that's what you enjoy doing, you solving those using those kinds of terms will help you frame yourself as I'm here to help. If I sell something along the way, good for me, right? Or whatever. So those kinds of terms when you describe what you do. But then secondarily, so that the search engine likes you, and that's the other sort of wonky part of LinkedIn, is to understand that having your product, what are your products and services you sell, maybe even the brand, on your profile so that when somebody searches either on LinkedIn or Google, you're going to come up high in the searches. I mean, at one point, Steve, when I owned that office furniture dealership in Milwaukee, it was the Hayworth dealership, which is a big brand in the country, right? I had that baby so optimized that my my personal LinkedIn profile will come up higher in a Google search than my company came up in a Google search the website because I had figured out the keyword optimization strategy on LinkedIn and we hadn't done a lot of SEO on our website, right? So so it's twofold. The words of helping them, and then two, lots of keywords relating to your product and service because you want the search engine to give you favor.
And what about what they should avoid? What should salespeople avoid having on their profiles?
Yeah, I think you need to avoid going too Facebook on it, especially with the stuff people post. Because don't forget, people are going to look at your activity box when they check you out, and they're going to see what you're posting or what your comments are and stuff. And that can turn a lot of people off. So I, when it comes to religion and politics and strong opinions on things that are taking place in the country, just be careful. If you're going to take that one to the mountain because that's your thing, then be ready, right? But then when you put things like you just had a banker just before we had our call, and he had on there um, muskie hunter, and he had on there um, soccer coach, right? So that's a little Facebooky, but I think that resonates with people in Wisconsin. Oh, tell me about your muskie hunter. He said, well, I'm a guide. I do have a part time job. Talk about a conversation point in Wisconsin. It's that you're a muskie hunter, right? So a little bit of that adds some personality to you, and you're just not the hardcore sales guy. And he told me, he said, guess what, Wayne? That muskie hunter thing brings more conversations because even if you're not a muskie hunter, you say, what does that mean? Right?
I bet that most of our listeners today don't even know that there's a
They call
fish
them muskie.
called a muskie in the northern lakes of the Midwest. But it's a long fish, kind of like
A northern
what are
pike.
the barracuda.
Yeah,
It's kind of like
yeah,
a freshwater barracuda or a giant northern pike. Yeah.
spot on.
But there's your Wisconsin culture for the day,
Yeah,
right?
just what your listeners needed.
Exactly. Um, Muskellunge. I've hunted a few muskies in my day myself. Um, but cool. Well, so what do you think that salespeople should include in a message if they're reaching out to a new prospect on LinkedIn?
So when you send a connection request to a prospect, and that's what it is, right? And you get 300 characters to craft the best 300 character note, you better have looked at their profile, and some of that content better be right with what you read or saw or what you know about their company and what they said. And then you say that in the comments. It's got to be, I could tell by your profile this, our company has this solution that helps people. If you want to chat about that, let me know. But in the meantime, let's connect on LinkedIn. In the meantime, I'd be honored to have you join my network. So I always like to have the middle section show that you did your homework, but I'd always close with, if it makes sense for us to talk, let's do it. But in the meantime, I'd be honored to have you join my LinkedIn network. That statement to me tells them, listen, we're going to have a professional relationship. It's going to be honoring to each other. I'm not going to spam you because that's not who I am. You wouldn't use the word honored if you were going to plan on pounding them with emails till they decide to take a phone call. So I think you got to show you did your homework and then close up with something that says, you know what? I'm here as a resource. I hope I can help you. If I read you wrong, then don't connect with me, basically, is what you're saying. If I read you wrong, then don't connect. That was my bad then.
For sure. Um, no, after connecting, how can salespeople send direct messages to prospects without turning them off or coming off,
Yeah.
as too salesy or badly?
So I think you got to pace yourself, number one. I think you could send a nice thank you note after you're connected. Maybe share your website and some testimonials, and maybe invite them to some event, a webinar, or a recorded webinar. Share some content in the thank you note to show them that you really know what you're doing, and here's some stuff that could help you. And then you better pace yourself. Then you better spread out your direct messages to a couple times a year, maybe. Maybe it's the webinar you hold twice a year. That's really good. And you bring in this big speaker, or maybe it's a new product thing. But try to stay away from just product stuff. Hey, we got to do this, and you need it, right? Educational content. I think that's the key. Company has to have some educational content that a sales guy can message a couple times a year, not 6 or 8 times a year. That's too much. Maybe 3 or 4 is okay if the content's that good. But I think that's what you got to do. You got to swing back and say, hey, Steve, we connected 6 months ago, never had a chance for a phone conversation. Wish we would. Maybe we should do that soon. But I thought I'd share with you this white paper. I thought I'd share with you a link to this registration for this upcoming webinar that everybody has just loved. Hope to talk to you soon, Wayne. So notice that. That was just, we didn't connect. We need to. Here's some cool information. If it makes sense, sign up for the webinar. Hope to see you there. Right?
And what do you think are the best ways to really engage with prospects that you've targeted on LinkedIn, connected with? How do you nurture that relationship?
Part is this, Steve. Whatever nurturing program you come up with, and it needs to be consistent, but it can't be overbearing and it can't be too much. So I think a touch point of 3, 4 times a year is totally appropriate, as long as what you're touching them with is content that they're going to learn from and happy that you were there. I mean, we all want people to become new customers overnight. That's usually not the case. It's a nurturing process. Content is the key to that. Inviting them to something where they're going to learn something, sharing some document, a tip sheet, a checklist, something like that. And not just, we have a new product and you should have it. You can do that once in a while, but if you overdo that, then they will disconnect. They will never answer the phone. They're not going to respond.
And what about the different ways you can interact and nurture over LinkedIn? Like how do you feel about making posts to the wall or whatever they call it on LinkedIn? Kind of, I guess your wall is on Facebook, but the LinkedIn
It's a
version of your
feed.
wall.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you think about direct messages versus the wall?
So the so direct messages are more intrusive. because they get into inboxes and the post goes into a feed, but the feed algorithm is very stinky. Only 5 to 10% of the people in your network get the stuff that you post, at least initially. Now, if that post gets a little bit of life, there's enough engagement, more people tomorrow, more people, more people, more people, maybe for weeks. So if you get the right post, it could have 2, 3 weeks shelf life. But remember, people have to also be looking at their feed to see this thing, right? So I think there's a time and place for posting, and I think there's a time and place for direct messaging. My preference is always to direct message, but if I've sort of hit them up 3 or 4 times and I haven't got what I wanted, or that was they weren't ready to respond, then I hope that they catch a post here and there and they get in that 5 to 10%. So I think there's a reason to do both, except for this. If you got a teeny tiny network, let's say a couple hundred people and you're a salesperson, posting is not going to take you very far just because of the way the algorithm only picks up 5 to 10%.
Okay, well, that's important to understand. And what do you think are the keys to leveraging your current relationships with people that you have on LinkedIn?
So I think that boils down to referrals. To me, one of the best things you can do on LinkedIn is leverage your current relationships to find out who those folks know. I had somebody yesterday. He was selling he sells his products to product electrical engineers, right? Their product went into a great big product. It was just a little dashboard, and he had one engineer, and there were 300 across the country that build these machines. And I said, every engineer gets to make his own decision. Yeah, they all get to specify the right display thing. And I said, well, why? How about getting referrals from all those other engineers? He was thinking referrals always people outside the company. And those are great, but if you can get referrals from internal engineers that do the same thing. So I said, to me, referrals are the number one thing for leveraging your current network to get more people in your network that are like the people that are you're already doing business with. And that's a filter, Steve, that most people have not discovered. That's the filter that's called connections of. And it's on the advanced filters on the desktop, and it's also on the phone. It's on the phone, so you can sit in a waiting room and go, let's see, who's this guy know? Okay, he knows these are the other 8 engineers. He knows outside of inside the company, or these are the other architects that he knows around the town. I mean, referrals on LinkedIn are the best once you just find that tool, and then figure out a little bit of a cadence that, hey, anytime I have a meeting with this guy, he loves me. I'm going to see who he knows. Anytime I have a meeting with this referral source, we help each other refer clients. Always do that search. Starting a routine like that, where you say to yourself, those sources of people, my network, those people that love me, or the people that are good referral sources that I help refer, those are the folks that I'm always going to do a search for before I have a phone call or meeting with them.
And how can how can you search for new people to target on LinkedIn? What tips and tricks do you have for our listeners, who want to find new, highly targeted leads on LinkedIn?
Okay. So the referral one's the best, right? So if the second degree that your friends know, second degree to you, your friends' first degrees, those are the home run. Now, past that, my next best referral thing is use the LinkedIn University page. So think about where you went to school. And if you're thinking to yourself, it's a big school, people all over the country. I would call on people that have a certain title, work at certain companies. Go to the university page, click the alumni button. Once you click the alumni button, now you can search, take the whole alumni base and filter by city, company name, keyword, and the years they went to that school. You could bring up electrical engineers that enter a certain kind of industry from this date range and go, you talk about a good list. It's right here. And I can use my school, the fact we both went to the same school, as one of my openers, right? We're talking about what to put in a message. Well, that's a good opener. Hey, I see you went to Marquette. So did I, and away you go. So I think the alumni page is a home run. And then here's the other thing. When you do an advanced filtered search, and that just means you put the cursor in the search box, you hit people, then you click all filters, and all of a sudden, and this is brand new, they just changed it. From the right-hand side comes up a list of filters. You can drop in titles, city, industry, company names. Up comes a list of people. Now, catch this. This is what people don't realize. Once that list comes up, you can then also save that search list so that when new people meet that search criteria, you get an email from LinkedIn every week with new folks that went into that list. That's a set it and forget it. And aren't we all looking for that as sales guys?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really helpful trick. Well, the next section is sales in 60 seconds. So quick questions, quick answers. First question: what mistakes do you see salespeople make on LinkedIn?
Going right to the sale. I mean, going right from hi, such and such said I'd talk to you. They connect, boom, right out of the gate, you start selling. Forgetting it's a nurturing, show them value, be a resource. Yeah, that's number one.
What do you think the tricks are to making a good first impression on LinkedIn?
Have a good have a good profile because when you send the connection request to a stranger, before they decide yes or no, you're going to look at your profile. And if your profile resonates with fun, interesting, resource kind of guy, then they go, hey, I think I would like to talk to this guy. When you see the muskie hunter and that does something for you, go meet with him. He's a muskie hunter, right? He's a banker, but so the point is your profile is that first impression that you're usually going to get a look if you send an invite. Make that right.
And what about LinkedIn groups? What's your best advice on joining and engaging with people on relevant LinkedIn groups?
Right now, don't waste your time.
Oh, really? Interesting. Why?
Nothing going on in groups right now. It's a mess.
Okay.
Used to be a great feature on LinkedIn. Used to be a winning, winning, winning feature.
Okay. And what changed?
LinkedIn took away a whole bunch of the notification features for the managers. So then they stopped having interest in them. Then all of a sudden, every salesperson in the world is posting their blog, and nobody was managing that. It just became a spam fest, and that's where they're at now. There are exceptions. There are still some groups being managed well by people that care about them, and even amongst LinkedIn sort of changes, they found a way to make it work. But it's not a winning strategy right now.
Okay. So, if you could give a field salesperson one piece of advice for using LinkedIn, what would it be?
I will go back to that referral thing I just told you. Because, and the reason I say that, Steve, is because when I ask salespeople when I do one-on-one consultations, how do you get your new leads? And a lot of them say, oh, word of mouth. People talk to people, and I'll say, okay, then referrals are going to be the best because referral first appointments are always the best because a friend set you up or you mentioned a friend and they got you set up. So I would say that's my number one bit of advice is to use that connections of filter because there you've got a sort of a known quantity because you've spent some time with your friend talking about their friend before you reach out to that stranger.
And if a salesperson was going to carve out some time every week to sit down and work on LinkedIn, what are the key things they should be doing on LinkedIn on that regular cadence?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that one up. Four things. Who did you meet in the last week that you haven't invited into your LinkedIn that you had a good conversation with outside of LinkedIn? Get them in your network. You'll want them. Number two, the ones that have come into you, inbound invitations, spend time on that list. Don't go as fast as you can. Spend time on their profiles and the ones that you accept because you looked at their profile and something resonates, then you do something, follow up with a message right away. Thank you for joining my network. Let's talk. It looks like you might have this interest. So inbound invitations is number two. Number three, who's viewed your profile? keep an eye on who's viewed your profile because listen, most people are not so bored they're just looking at random profiles for something to do on a Sunday afternoon. Yes, there'll be spammers, but that page is filled with a bunch of people that are interested in you. And number four, the notifications tab. The notifications tab is shows you people changing jobs, uh, people posting and interacting with your stuff, people that are having birthdays, anniversaries, which is always the time to open the door to a conversation. Notifications tab's a winner.
And as an actionable takeaway here, what should the field salespeople listening today do as a first step towards being more successful on LinkedIn?
I would go look at the profiles of your competitors, five or six of them. I print their profiles, I print yours. I put them on your desk. I go away for the weekend and I would come in on Monday morning, put your customer hat on, and I'd read those six profiles, yours is in there, and I'd try to be objective and ask myself this question. If I were looking for our stuff, because they're your competitors, right? Would I pick me? And then you'll know because that's what's happening on LinkedIn every day of the week as we're getting compared to others that look like they do the same thing we do.
Well, that's fantastic advice. I'm going to try to summarize the different things that you've taught us here today. So, first of all, LinkedIn is a great database for salespeople. We all know that. It's intelligence gathering and it's great information to prep you for a sales call. A customer focused profile should look like a resource for your prospects' pain points. So it's a place they can go to learn about what how they can solve their problems. You can use keywords around your company and your product so that your profile comes up in search results like not only within LinkedIn but also on Google. In the first message to a prospect, make sure you show that you did your homework and then you can invite them to connect if they're interested. After connecting with a prospect, you can send educational content that's helpful to their role. Make a plan to engage with prospects about 3 or 4 times a year. So you don't want to overload them here. Try direct messaging and posting to your feed to engage with these different prospects. Finally, leverage your current LinkedIn relationships to find who your connections know. Then you can do research here and you can find a ton of untapped referrals because your who your connections know is a huge group of people and they can introduce you to them. Well, this has been just fantastic, Wayne. Where can our listeners read more about your work and where can they reach out to you?
Well, of course, LinkedIn. Look for me on LinkedIn. That'd be an easiest place. But my website is powerformula.net, where you'll find all kinds of great I write a weekly blog post about new LinkedIn strategies, changes, features, that kind of thing. And all kinds of videos and free stuff there relating to LinkedIn. It's powerformula.net.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great and really helpful episode of the Outside Sales Talk here. If you work in field sales, you'll love Badger Maps. The number one route planner helps you sell 20% more and drive 20% less. And you can get a free trial at badgermapping.com. If you can think of any other sales reps that would benefit from learning the skills that Wayne taught us about today, share the love and forward this on to them. Take care until next time, guys.